Oceane. Obviously went to Caulfield, French Australian. Did a dance course straight after high school, so that's what Lauren and I did. We went straight to a full-time dance course for 2 years. That was like pretty much 8 to 5, different sorts of dancing, Monday to Friday, so that was quite intense and heavy. And then since then, we both got a contract the end of our second year, and we pretty much flew straight to Miami there, and then I did 2 ships straight after that, so travelled all around the world, got to go to Alaska, Hawaii, all these crazy scenes, and saw a bunch of stuff, did a bunch of different shows. And then since then, because of COVID, I actually did 3 months at sea and then had to be relocated to Brisbane. And then since then, I've been a yoga teacher. So yeah, that's me.
And I'm Lauren, so obviously after Caulfield, like Oce just explained, I did the full-time dance course for 2 years, and then I also went over to America and did rehearsals, and then got to be a part of Royal Caribbean's brand new ship, Spectrum of the Seas. So I spent 11 months with them working on 2 brand new shows with choreographers from the UK and LA, and then came home, got ready for my second contract, went over, and then COVID hit and I was only on board for 11 days. I was unfortunately part of one of the Sydney clusters with those ships. I wasn't on the Ruby Princess, but I was part of one of those ships, and then was in the middle of my 14-day quarantine when whole of Australia went into quarantine. And now I'm dance teaching and working retail. So yeah. So I think there's not a lot of support, unfortunately, for performers and people that go out of their way to do something that's not a typical university degree. So we were dancing, like I said, from 8 till 5 every day, but we don't get any help from the government to pay for our fees or any subsidies like that. So most of us would finish training and run straight to work after that. Yeah. So it was really hard trying to stay healthy, get enough sleep, but also be ready for whatever life was throwing at you with social stuff and things like that. So that's one of the big challenges, was trying to keep your head above water. So,
and also just people expecting you to go to uni. So when we'd go up to people and be like, oh, we're dancers, it's kind of like, oh, what do you mean? Like, it was just very different. It's a whole explanation, and people are just not very open, I think, to the idea of doing something other than the norm.
And with that, it was really hard with a lot of our friends who went to uni. They'd be like, oh, come out Thursday night, we're going out for drinks. And we'd be like, oh, we can't, we've got training at 8 a.m. Swimming at 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. And they'd be like, just come for one drink. And it was hard having to say goodbye to almost a lot of friendships that we made in school, because our social lives just changed so drastically. So, yeah. I didn't actually know what I wanted to do at the end of year 12 besides dancing. Obviously, we can't dance forever. That's the reality of our job. But it's nice to have more of an idea of who you are to then go to uni with and be like, this is what I actually want to study as well. So it's given us a chance, I think, to find what we really want in life as well, which is nice. So in technical terms, we've both probably made it in terms of our industry.
Yeah, absolutely.
As dancers, you never stop dreaming of the next step. So I think, for me personally, I think it's pretty similar for you as well, is to get a permanent show in Europe somewhere and just plop over there for a few years and just be in the same show every night. That's the dream, I think.
There's so many different things in our industry. It's just not a lot in Australia. So there's, for example, the shows in Europe. There's shows in New York. There's all these different kinds of things. And the aim of a dancer, once you get one, you kind of just get addicted, so you just want to keep going. So I think we did the ship thing so we can tick that off and maybe do it again one day, but the next thing is to go to Europe and do the cabarets or something like that over there.
Yeah. We're very lucky. We have a massive support group from both our families and friends, and we're also lucky Caulfield, I think, gave us a really good support system when we were here as well. So we've got a massive group of people that are always watching out for us and checking up on us and being like, oh, what's next, things like that. And I think the girls who we trained with, girls and guys that we trained with, we still talk to each other most days of the week. So they're always pushing us and inspiring us to keep going forward.
Definitely injuries. And the contracts that we do get when we go on the cruise ships, for example, it's 9 months. And I got my contract 3 weeks before I left. So I had to pack up 2 suitcases for 9 months and get rid of everything. My parents had already moved away, so I had to sell a bed, do all this stuff, like get visas, get all this like crazy sorts of things, like medicals that cost like $600, like crazy sorts of things that you just it's a little crazy. So it's a few hurdles like that you suddenly have to be a big kid. And for example, I got injured on my ship and I split my shin open. I had to get stitches on the ship, but because I did them on the ship, I couldn't get sent home. So for 3 weeks I was just out of shows, not doing anything, couldn't move. So that was just kind of hard, because then you're just plateauing and not doing anything. And that was around Christmas as well, so it was just hard to do all that. But
yeah,
that's all right.
I think another hurdle is obviously your mental health. It's very overwhelming, and there are some days, like when we were in full time, we'd dance all day, and then I was teaching on top of that, so I would have 15-hour days of just dancing, just pure dancing. And to wake up at 6 a.m. the next morning to leave at 6:30, there are some days, the amount of tears that was shed in our full-time year, it has to be something you love, because you can't do that every day for 2 years.
Well, our full-time year went from 40 people to, how many of us graduated? 17?
Yeah, people just 48 down to 17 by the end of it, because you just
can't take the pressure sometimes.
So that's the big one, is finding the strength to believe in yourself, to be like, I can do this, and get on with it. So that was a big one. Just being on stage. It's so cheesy, but it is indescribable. But when you perform on stage, when you perform to a full audience and they just love it, and it's a high. It's an absolute high, and I love it.
Well, to think about our jobs, to think about it, we would wake up in a different country every day, be able to get off, and then dance at night. 2 shows of our job. So it's fitness. We get paid to go to the gym. It's just like all part of our contracts, and like what a contract to live. And then especially it really, because I did a show last week, and same thing, the curtain went down, like the audience roars right at the end, and I was just like, oh my god, this is what I live for. And I was like, in that moment, like, wow, this is absolutely what I love so much. Like, you just make people feel things and take them on the journey.
And I'm very lucky. Obviously, I work with a lot of kids, and there is nothing more exciting in their like face and in their eyes when you tell them that you're a professional dancer, and you show them one photo and they think you're absolute celebrity.
You're a star.
But and even though, like, I don't know how to put it into words, but just being able to be like, you don't have to follow a traditional path, and like there are other options outside of school and stuff. And I've seen kids who didn't want to dance, and now they're getting to the end of their high school experience like, oh, I'm going to dance like you. For me, that's just like, oh, it is really fulfilling when you hear that as well, that there are kids still out there that want to dance and be professional ballerinas and dancers and all that kind of stuff.
So, for example, my first contract, I was the youngest. So I was 19, my first contract. And I was in a room suddenly with people that were 25, was the minimum age, or pretty like median. And because they're all from America, we've all trained in different ways, and it's just, I had to just level up. Like, I couldn't just be the baby. I had to, like, they expected this of me, so I had to go up. So that was kind of a bit of a challenge there, but something that is cool.
Yeah. You've also, like I said, you get thrown into the deep end. There's no one, as dancers, you're expected to be perfect whenever they call you. You might be at rehearsals till midnight, but they'll want you back in at 8 o'clock the next morning, and you are expected to be on your game to pick up everything they throw at you. And it doesn't matter if you're, like I said, whether you're 18 or you're 30. No one's there to help you and be like, it's okay, like you're having a bad day. It's like, what's your problem if you're not? So it does get quite you put a lot of pressure on yourself, especially when you're new and you don't actually know what's going on, to like kind of adjust to everything that's going on. In saying that as well, though, it is really nice to disconnect. And I think that's something we're really lucky with, because you have to pay for Wi-Fi. People just go, nah, I'm not going to do it today. So you learn to interact with people a lot better than what society normally does today, because everyone at home's obviously on their phones all the time and everything's through a computer. Whereas it'll be a sea day, you're in the middle of the ocean, and so you're mixing with all these people from around the world and you learn so much more about people when you don't have the distraction of a phone. Like, you walk around the ship, you don't take your phone with you half the time because you're like, there's no point, you don't need it. So I really like that as well.
Yeah. Definitely grew up really quickly, I would say. Just because traveling is obviously a culture shock all the time. Like, literally, like I said, I went to Hawaii, Alaska, Seattle, Canada, like Southeast Asia. Like, I just was everywhere. And so the difference between all those ports are, for example, Southeast Asia was a good one because I would get off in Singapore one day and that's very high end and everyone looks great. It's a different level to when, for example, the next day I'd go to Penang in Malaysia, which is fun, still fun. I loved it. Actually, it was actually my favorite port, but it's smelly. People are harassing you to like get in their cabs and stuff like that. And then the third one's Phuket, so it's just a bunch of travelers and people are getting drunk on the beach and things like that. So it's the three of them are really different.
I've definitely gotten a lot more confident.
Yeah.
I've always been a very shy person, because I just kind of hide behind this exterior. But I've really, going overseas and obviously living with brand new people and sharing a room with an absolute stranger and things like that, I'm a lot more confident in myself and what I do and things like that. So that's definitely helped me. You start from ground zero again once you leave high school, and it's a good reminder for everyone that just because school isn't your forte doesn't mean the rest of your life and uni won't be your forte.
And we both did well at high school, like scores wise and stuff like that. Like we both did well, but we haven't used that sort of theory stuff in ages. Yes, like socially, but not really. So more to say no to things. So for example, as a dancer, we're kind of expected to say yes to a lot of things just because that's how we're trained when we're... But now that we, both Laura and I, classify as professional dancers, we are allowed to say no, we're allowed to ask for more money. And that's actually been something that's been huge because both of our contracts, yes, we asked and we got higher. But for example, in Australia, people only know us as students pretty much. So they've always hired us as students. So they haven't seen us grow like that where we have overseas. So I think for me, it was very much being like, no, yes to certain things. Like obviously we all heard about that AFL grand final thing. I was, for example, asked to do that for free. And of course I was like, no, but it's still a hard thing to navigate because you do want to dance. So it's like, I want to do that passion, but I don't want to do it. Like it's knowing your worth kind of now and selling yourself because we're an ABN at the end of the day. Like we're a business. So that's pretty much what I would say.
Yeah. Don't stress. If you don't know what you want to do, you've got plenty of time. I have some idea of what I would eventually like to study, but still not definite. There is time. Be your own person. Be a young person. Don't just... Like, everyone's different, but don't throw yourself into your studies straight away if that's not what you want to do. If you want to work for a year and then go travel, do that because you'll regret it in the future if you don't. And you learn so much more about yourself if you take the opportunity to find yourself and what you love to do, rather than follow, I'm just going to go straight to uni and work really hard and get my degree and then go straight into a job that you're going to work for however many years. So just take a breath, choose what you want to do and follow through with it.
Good one. What did you know?
I've always wanted to be a dancer. I've always been the dancer, but I got really serious about it in about year 9, and I actually wanted to professionally pursue ballet. And then I worked out real quick that wasn't going to work for me. But I got really serious about it in year 9 and was like, you know what, this is actually something that I'm really interested in pursuing. And so I did, stuck to my guns, and here we are.
For me, it's a little different. I never knew that I was actually going to become a dancer. I pretty much quit actually out of school dancing when I went to Caulfield Grammar because I was doing all the Caulfield Grammar stuff. Yeah. And was actually kind of more interested in netball and doing all these other sorts of sports. So for me, it was just, I graduated a year early, so I was one of those 17-year-old graduates. And I think it was you that was like, why don't you just come do this course for 6 months? And if you don't like it, then like don't continue it. And I was like, oh, would be good fitness. So I went and I did it, and then we actually ended up getting gigs pretty much our first year through the agency and stuff like that. So because we're both tall, we're pretty hireable and tend to do that sort of stuff. So then obviously it's an ego boost and it fills, and so you keep going, and then again I was there by the end of the second year and we both got jobs. So, and now I wouldn't have it any other way. So it's up and coming. We're doing the thing, so it's better to listen to us than people that were doing the thing 30 years ago and don't know what the latest sort of trends and
so we're very progressive.
Yeah, we're very progressive, and we're kind of at an age now where people are just seeing the bigger picture in things. It's not just, I think like our parents and things like that just kind of followed their times and what they knew best at the time, whereas we are knowing better, are seeing things differently and growing and obviously traveling a bit more and not settling down having kids at the age of 25, you know what I mean? So it's just like very like different in that way and a different sort of approach.